Hello all. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, based on where you are. So today we'll be starting a new series because there are so many questions around it, which is around where we'll be talking about different data types available in Business Central. What's best to start with when we talk about data types is one of the most confusing, at least to some people, data type, which is enums. So today we'll talk about all about enum that I know, and if I miss something, let me know into the comment section. So let's get started. So, what is Business Central Enum? So, people who are coming from an object-oriented programming background may already know what enums are. But in general, as definition, enums are objects that are essential a list of items. With Business Central, the list becomes starts with number 0, and you can keep increasing that number and add items into that list that needed. Now, people who are coming from Dynamics Nav, they always correlate enums to option. And based on the deprecation policy and confusion and rumors in the market, there are surely confusions around that, oh, options will be completely replaced by enums in future. And that's one of the biggest wrong messages that's available in the community today. Enums are not there to replace options. Yes, there are certain options which have changed to enum, but there is a logical reason behind it, and we'll talk about it. But let me make it very clear. There is no clear direction as of now, or there is no message from Microsoft as of now, where they say that options is going to be deprecated and will be replaced by enums. You'll say, great, but then why enums if there was an option available? So we'll dip deep, uh, we'll dig a little bit deep into it and we'll understand how it is different from options, what you can do with enums, what you were not able to do with options, what are the limitations, how you extend these, and things like that. So I hope the stage is set. Let's start getting into it. So how should we start? Okay, so let's start with Visual Studio Code, just to keep it simple. And just FYI, these because we are talking about data types, I'll not store this into GitHub. If you think it's needed, just let me know in comments. I normally keep this code for a day or two, and I'll also store it if you guys think it's important. So let's understand first how you define an enum. Okay. So there's a snippet from Microsoft, which is the enum, and you can just use it, and it gives you a structure of enum, which means it requires an object ID, which is 50100, and then my enum, where it is your name, and I'll say sh demo extension enum or demo. The important property here is extensible, which defines is that enum can be extended if another app can add new values into it. And you as the app owner, in this case, I will decide will this enum be extensible or not. And there are reasons behind why you'll say it yes or no. We'll come to it. Just like the options in nav, you can define them as this, which is the value and then the index of it. Let's start typing it so that we see what the options are. So the first is ID, which is the ordinal number representing the enum value, let's say 1. And then the second is the name. Remember, this is the name. This can be ABC. What will be visible to user can be set on the caption property, saying, let's say, red. Ah, see. And I'll say it 1, 2, 3, and then the caption will be okay. I went a little bit fast, I guess. Caption will be uh, let's say right, and because it should be supposed to be text, I need to define it like this. How that works? It doesn't. Okay, it says that it is expecting something. Let me do XYZ. Okay, that supports it. Now, it's not mandatory to have it different than caption, but that's just for the demo purpose. You can also have it like this, white and red. What other options we have? Let's see. In the properties, we have an implementation. We'll come to this on a separate video when we'll talk about another data type or an object type that's available. Obsolete. If you are an app developer, do you want to discontinue this value going forward? And then these all are option or properties available. But that's it. That's simple. That's as easy as it is to define an enum. Now, where people get confused is the index of enum also starts with zero in the same way like option index starts with zero. But again, it is not a replacement. I'll keep repeating it as many times as I have to say it. So let's say we have defined these colors, and let's do one more if needed. And I'll say 3 is green. Okay, and then the caption also becomes green. So you can keep defining as many values as you want. Now, once you have defined and you have decided what kind of extensibility it is, you can move forward with it to utilize this enum in your system. But before we do that, let's also extend an existing enum so that we understand how an enum extension works. For that, you can define at enum user step at enum extension. If I'm not wrong, it should do that. Enum extension, and where you again give it an ID, which is again 50100. This is an enum, this is an enum extension, so they can be different. And I would like to extend, let's say, sales line type. So I'll try IntelliSense, sales line type. I'm hoping this is where it says GL account item. Let's have a look. And yes, it says blank GL account item resource 600. Now, and I'll keep comparing it with option as I'm an app developer in the past. In the nav word, typically an option value will look like, and let me just copy it for a while so that we can understand what the difference is. And I'm covering this. Okay. So in an option field, traditionally what will happen is there will be property option string or option caption, option string, I guess. And the values will start like blank, comma, GL account, and so on and so forth, right? Item, if there's any space, then you plug that in, otherwise you don't. Item, and then resource, and let's say charge item. Okay, just for explanation. And then if we have to add in value, we'll say, oh, my value is sort of. What will happen with that? The index of this will become 6 because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the next number is 6. Some partners in the past also, just to make sure that if Microsoft made additive changes, they added some commas, which increased the index of it from 7 to 8, 9, 10, and 11. So now Saurabh is sitting at 11. But what if Microsoft extended till 11? And it was always a tough journey to kind of keep changing that because you also have to change data behind the scene. So what you can do in Enum, and that's the beauty of Enum, is when you are extending this sales line type, you should always align it to the object series or the value ID should start from the number that you are developing for. If you are building a PTE, we know our range, it's 50,000 to 99,000. So we should use that. If you are an app developer, then you should use the object ID range or the value index range based on the index that is or the object ID that is assigned to you. So if I want to call it Saurabh, I can now call it Saurabh. So now whatever Microsoft does, they will do it in their range. If any other ISV does, they'll do it in their range. And if I'm modifying the behavior based on a PT, I'll use my range of 50,000. And then I'll say this is option sort of. Okay. So that's how you do as a enum extension. And just to keep it true to myself, I'll also add the prefix here. That way, I'm safe enough that if something happens, my extension is not going to break if Microsoft tomorrow adds a 6 number, 7 number index. That's okay. That doesn't cause a problem. One more important thing which we should note that enum and enum extension do need an object ID as we can see, but they are not enforced by license. And I'll come back to this later because that's kind of the whole reason why I'm making this video to understand it. So we'll see that. So now we have defined an enum. We have also defined an enum extension. Now how you use it? So let's create a new file. We'll call it as, or maybe use the AZL extension. That's always easy, right? Let's create a table and we'll call it SDH sample table. And I'll call this as code and this as description. And then this is, what is that? Color selection. Okay. The data type here becomes code. This becomes text and this becomes enum. The code is of length 20. Data classification is customer content. Here it is 100 customer content, and here is there is no length customer content and finish it. Now, as soon as you do that, you see that there is an error on your field number 3 because it just says enum and there's no reference to it. What you need to do after that is you need to decide what enum you are using, which is SDS demo, which is the enum we created. This one. That's how you utilize the field in your uh, in your table. Now what we need? We just need a page so that we can play around with it. So let's create a page also based on source table SDH. Let's do SDH sample table, and this is SDH sample page. Okay, let's keep it card. That's okay, and then let's add the code, description, and color selection into it, and let's finish it. So that we can see it quickly, I'll just add this into my launch. So whenever my extension will run from VS Code right now, it'll show this. So what should happen now? The page should pop up and this should refer it to the color selection and then we'll be able to see it in action. So let's try doing that before that. Let me see if my VS Code is running. Oh, sorry, my Business Central is running and it is. So let's wait for it to be published and see how enum look like. So this the extension will get published and we'll be able to see that page which we just added. And we also extended the sales line enum. So we'll also see that. We'll have both the options now. So let's see what happens. Once it get published, we will see that page which we just created and show us to enter code and the description and color selection. So let's do a new. I'll say code is 10, description is test, and you'll see the selection here, red, white, white, red, and green, which is the option that we have set here. Now, what if, and this is just about your app or your extension, if you don't want to see all these colors to users, if you just want to show them red and green and not white, what you can do in that case is go to your table where you have the field, and then here as like you can use the property values allowed, and this requires a index of the field that you would like. So if I want to show 1 and 3, I'll say 1 comma 3, and that's it. Now on this page, whenever this enum will be displayed, it will show me only values which are 1 or 3. So that means I'll not see white at that moment. But remember, okay, what happened? Okay, this is trying to install a different table and table extension. Okay, and this is just for demo purpose. Don't try it at home. To be very fair, I'm just changing the schema update nodes to 47. But this is just for demo. Don't try to do it unless you know what I'm doing. Okay, I know what I'm doing, so I'm doing it. But this is something that you should never try it at your environment where you force it to be forced. Okay. Now this page, once it gets published, it should limit me to not to choose white because I have defined what values I would like to choose. What I can do now is I can only select red or green. That's red or that's green, and that is controlled by valued allowed. Hope that's clear that how you can limit what kind of values you can assign. Now, what else? Let's think about it. Whenever, like in this case, which is an interesting case, coming back to the Enum extension, where we have extended this. Now think about it from a sales line perspective. When you look at table number 37, which is sales line, and you did extend the type, which is sales line type, you also will have to handle all the code that is happening on type, right? Item, fixed set, charge, and so on and so forth. And we'll come to that in a while. But also, you'll have to change the behavior of this number field because in case of GL account, this lookup shows you the GL account. In case of resource, it shows you resource, fixed set, items, and so on and so forth. What about when there is a case of sorrow? And let's look at it. What happens at this moment? If I go back into my sales order page, let's do that. We'll see that on my sales line, I now can select Saurav as one of the option, a valid option in my type, and I can't. And why that will be that I can't see that value. Now that's important that we cannot see this value on the extension where we have extended it. Is there a limitation on the page itself? Let's see. What are the options? These are the only options. Did Microsoft use the limit type into it? I have no clue. So let's have a look. Okay. It says type is sales line type and there's no value limit assigned. And I have also extended my sales line type. So why on earth system will not support 50,000 is the question. Hmm. Okay. Let's have a look and understand why the system is not accepting this. So there seems no condition here, but let's look at the page. There might be some condition there. Okay. Sales order subform. Let's go to the page. Order subform. Type. No conditions. Oh, filter type. Oh, yeah, I remember now. So this might not be the right example that I should have showed you, but in the subforms of sales and purchases, there are two type fields which are visible based on the different application area. If you're basic and suite, then you get a lookup window, which is an option lookup buffer table. Whereas if you are on advanced mode, then you just directly get the field. So let's change our example so that we understand it. Okay, what should we take? Okay, let's see. How about customer blocked? Okay, so customer blocked have options of blank, ship, invoice, and all, and it is set to extensible true. So I can actually add sort of here and then see how it looks. So I'll change it to customer blocked. Okay, and we should be able to see it when we run the customer card now from Business Central. So let's wait for it. And I hope you understand that based on different application areas, different fields are visible in the page and some fields are invisible. So based on what kind of application area you're using, the way sales and purchase pages are rendering, they're a little bit different. But okay, not a problem. We should see that into our customer card now. When I go into customer and I pick up a customer, in the blocked field, I should see now a new option called solve. But remember, it's not only about adding a new option into it, it's also about writing a logic about that new option that you have added. So going back to the earlier example, if we were able to add Saurav into the sales line, we need to define what the type lookup or the number lookup will show. We also need to define how the posting will happen of that. And all the examples that I'm showing you are legacy options. Now let's understand why the change happened and what best to explain it other than looking at code unit 80 or 90. Those are the best code units for this. Whenever there will be an option or an enum, there should be a case. Okay. Now this one, mm, not this one, not this one, but here. Let's look at this. This is a known old method called test sales line. And it says here that if the sales line type is item, then Microsoft have this enum value. So Microsoft will write the code how the change item tracking quantity need to happen. In case of charge item, again Microsoft. In case of fixed asset, again this one. But what if we would have added the value sort of? At this point, when Microsoft making the product visible and allowing developer to modify the behavior using events, option was not a good choice at this point because option would have limited it to whatever the option that Microsoft have added. And that's where the first power of Enum, where Microsoft is, you know, wherever needed, changing options to Enum, is where there are situations like this. So in this case, when I'm adding a new option of Saurav or Enum extension of Saurav, I know how to handle it. And that's where this method comes into the picture. That as the app developer, Microsoft knows how to handle these. If any app in the world, maybe PTE, maybe an app on App Source, have added a new option, then they need to handle that code. And for that, Microsoft have given you this method, which surely should have an event, if I'm not wrong. So let's go in there. The first thing that you see is that there is an event, and you can handle it there. So to make sure that the code is more extensible, that's the reason why Microsoft is changing some of the options to enums. That still doesn't mean that all the options will convert to enums. I hope that point is clear. And I hope now you understand how to enum is created and enum extension is created. Let's see an example of some of the enums which are available in the base where you cannot, where Microsoft as the app owner have decided that they are not extensible. There will be so many of them. But let's look at something which I was doing something today and I noticed this. Okay, I'm going a little bit deep. Let me search. There's an option for license, enum for license. So this enum, which is the different kind of licenses in Business Central, surely that doesn't make sense for Microsoft to make it extensible true, because that's how Microsoft makes Business Central available for different kind of users. In that case, you will see that the extensible is false, which means you as a PTE developer or an app developer will not be able to extend this enum. And there will be a lot more like this, not just this one. So only if while building the extension, if the app developer have made extensible true, that tells you that you can extend it, case one. That also tells you that wherever there is a need, the app developer would have made an event available so that you can modify the behavior based on your new enum value that you have added. You can use enums as simple as anywhere else. Like you can use them into a code unit if needed. Okay, 0, 100, and I can actually define it as a variable. Let's say customer blocked. That's what we were using, which is an enum called customer blocked. And then based on this, I can write case of customer blocked if needed, and then I can write customer blocked is equals to invoice, and then I can start doing whatever the stuff that I want to do. If you have added into a table, then you can modify the behavior of, like in the sales line table, the number field, by just modifying the behavior of that particular field using table extension. So all that is possible. There's nothing limiting you when you're using Enum extension. Two things why I chose this topic. One, somebody suggested it, and one, I got stuck in a situation where I was doing some dev and I got stuck into it. So I thought, why not? So before we move into the situation that I have, I want to go back to the point which I said earlier, and let me repeat that, which is while enums and enum extension object have object IDs, as we saw here. When you define an enum, you need an object ID. When you define an enum extension, you need an object ID. They are not enforced by license. And what I mean by that, I'll show it to you. In previous version, they reuse the range of tables and were checked against the license at the deployment point. But this is not the case any longer. Uniqueness of validation is now enforced during installation and will fail if the enum object ID clashes, which is already installed enum. Now here, if Microsoft or someone from Microsoft is watching this, I was talking to some friend who worked for India localization, and they gave me a weird issue, and I said, "Oh, that seems interesting," and that's where I started reading this, and I found this a little bit confusing. So if you are on India localization, there are two or there are multiple apps for India localization, which I don't work for sure at this moment, but where there's a conflict. So there's a Microsoft India TCS app where there's an enum where there are three enums. One of them is minor head type. And then there is a TDS app from Microsoft, or not from Microsoft, but with the help of a partner for sure. Let me open it on a tab. Okay, here, let me collapse this. So this is TCS, this is TDS, and let's open the enums here. You'll notice that there are two apps, two enums, or one enum in both the apps, which is 18808. Is available as minor head here, minor head type, and it's a different ID, but it's the same object name, minor head type. I was a little bit curious, so I went ahead and I said, okay, open definition in the app file. There it is, and also open definition in the app file. To my surprise, they had the same values, they had the same name. The only thing which is different was the object ID coming from two different apps. Microsoft, please fix it because it is causing some errors on on-prem installation for sure in the event log. It doesn't stop the system at this moment, but there are errors reported into the event log because of this conflict. So if you are watching it, please make sure that this gets corrected as soon as possible. Okay. So coming back to the last thing, why I started building this video is for some development that I'm doing. I wanted uh, to have a user to have a table ID selection and then a field ID selection. But just to be a good developer, I wanted to make sure that the user should only be able to select the fields or should only see the fields which are of type uh, enums. And let me give an example. So there are so many fields in, let's say, sales order table. Okay, let's have a look. And there will be a lot of enums there if you look at it. One is sales document type. This is not a field, but general document type. And I wanted user to just see the list of all the enums that are available in this table based on user selection for one of the requirements that I'm building for a customer. So what I did is let me create a table, or not like this. Ah man, let me create a ACAL table, and I'll see STH demo one, and I'll say this is again code. So that makes it simple. Table ID and then the field ID. Okay, that uh, code 20. This is integer. Surely that makes sense. Integer. This is also integer. Okay, this is customer content. This is also customer content, and this is also customer content. Okay, sounds good. Let's finish this. So it got me what I needed. So let me, in the meantime, just copy things which I have built so that it's easier for me and you to kind of save time into it. So let me see where my recent project is and let me open that. Okay, so I have this table and what I'm doing here. Okay, it did not open. Just give me a second. I should have it. Okay. So the idea is that, and let me find that, and we'll start from there. Okay, I did found that. So this is it. What I'll do is I'll quickly copy the table relations that I have so that it's easier. So for table ID, I said pick anything from the all object where the object type is table, and for the field ID, I said pick it from the field table where the table number matches to the table ID above. Okay, let me correct the name. I said it number and now I'm saying ID. Okay, where this is matches and show me the list so that I can select it. As simple as that. Now here I wanted to say where the type is enum. As usual, I would say type is equals to constant enum, and it did not work. I was a little bit surprised that the field table is supposed to store every possible field that's available in the sentence. And there is a field table which have all the valid fields. What are those? Table number, the field number, table name, field name, type, length, class, enabled, and others, so on and so forth. So I got a little bit curious and I said, okay, for the time being, let's comment this out for a while. Okay, I'll stick to this that I want this, and I'll create a page temporarily. Okay, this may end up spending so much time. So let's kill this and let's create a new page on table field, demo field on field table. What does the field table have? Field table have all the fields. So I'll just make it list and let's make it list. Let's see next. And I'll select everything first and then I'll remove whatever is not needed. These two field I don't need. Okay, data classification I don't need. Okay, it's part of primary key, obsolete. These all are useless field more or less for this, as in for whatever I'm doing right now. Not useless, useless. Okay, so this gives me more or less whatever I need. Okay, let's move this also. So that at least we can see things, right? So let's change the order. I need let's keep it as it is. Not a problem, it seems. Okay. So let's run this and see what happens to the enum, because I can't see enum in my list. I'm a little bit worried because I am not able to filter out my list just for enums that are available in that particular table. And I should be able to do it. So how the enums are stored in Business Central, you will understand it from this page execution that we are doing. And that might also clear some confusion of why I'm saying that, what I said earlier. So once this page run, you'll be able to see certain fields. Let me filter it out on, let's say, table number, not the field number, but the table number, 36, which is our sales header. And we are looking for document type. Now, if you look at it, the document type is stored as type option. And when you look at the type, you don't see any option of enum. The table filter, record ID, OEM text, date, time, date formula, decimal, and all those. But there's no enum. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to say, okay, option, and show me all the options. What happens with that? Here, I see all my enums, or most of the enums which are there, stored as options in behind the scene. So enums behind the scene, when they are getting stored in the database or in your system, are still options. They haven't been converted per se as enums. So then when I come back to my code, what I can do is I can say, okay, this all looks good. Now this table, sorry, close all, wherever that my table is, which is this, and I'll say here, my type is equals to constant option, and that will achieve. With this, I'll achieve whatever I wanted. So let's publish this. Do I need a page for this? It seems so. Okay, so let me create a page on SDH demo 1 just quickly so that we can see what happens with that page. Okay, this is demo 1. This is demo 1. Let's make it as a card and let's drag code, table ID, and field ID into this and finish this. Okay. Now let's change the runtime page ID to this so that we don't have to search for it later. And let's publish this again. This time it should pop up that page. And if everything goes well, and if I enter 18, oh sorry, 36 at this moment, it should show me all these fields which you just saw in this screen. So let me drag it here. Ah, sorry, I wanted to drag it some way up, but I cannot. Reason. So now when it runs, it should show me enter your table number. Once you enter your table number, the system should be able to show me a set of fields. So let's say 1. Okay, and then here I select and I can type in needed table 36. So now I have the table 36 and the field ID. Okay, that doesn't look good. Okay, there's a way to it. So there's a buffer table that you can utilize, and I'm going to do that because I already have the code. I'm not going into the detail, but just to keep it short, I'll add a lookup code here where whatever I'm doing is very simple. I'll just walk you through quickly about it. Uh, the default field page have limited fields available from Microsoft, but then there is a page called Field Lookup which have more fields, which is more user friendly. So now if you publish this just filters out table ID, option field, normal, and then shows you what fields you are selecting. So with that, you'll be able to do a better lookup on this page rather than this funky lookup where you just see the table number and the field number. You should be able to see something, or user should be able to see something which is easier for him or her to filter out data based on the names of the fields, right? So let's see what that small code that we have added changes into the page. Now my lookup looks like this, a nicer lookup. where I can see the field number, field name, and the field caption. Now I know what field I want. Let's say I see status and I can click OK and I'll save that field. So that was the problem that I started with. But then after talking to some other people, I learned something new. Let's quickly summarize what we learned today before I end this. One, enums are not replacement for options. They are itself a new object which matches how options are defined, but they are completely different objects. You can extend enums if they are set to extensible true by the developer of that extension. Uh, when the developer decides that its extension is true, he or she makes sure, or they make sure, that there is an event available wherever there is a requirement of customizing the behavior of the standard code. What we have also seen in this video is behind the scene, enums are actually stored as options. One more thing that we learned is that uh, IDs are not enforced by license at this moment. At this moment, which means going forward. Uh, Another thing that we learned that there is a problem in the TDS and TCS extension where there are two enums with the same values and the same name in two different extensions. You could request for Microsoft to fix it. And then at the end, we solved the problem that I was facing where I wanted to limit the field selection only to the enums that are available. So hope you get a clear idea about the enums in this video. If it went a little bit longer, I'm really sorry for that. But I wanted to cover everything that I knew. Okay. If you learned something new, please do share this video. If you're new to this channel and landed from somewhere, we keep doing these kind of quick tips. This is not a quick one for sure, but do subscribe to the channel and share your love. If you have questions, add them into the comment section and I'll make sure that I answer them. I'll keep on adding the videos around data types in Business Central in this. If you have any preferences, also let me know into the comments and I'll prioritize those. If you think the code that we did today makes sense, I might create a separate repo about it and we can store it in GitHub if you think it's important. Till then, have a great day and I'll see you next time with the next video. Thank you.